Welcome to OAC Vancouver's podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We believe that Jesus is needed and relevant for people in Vancouver today. The message of God's love and promise of wholeness was destined to be experienced within a faith community that worships, studies scripture, and prays together. We warmly welcome you to journey with us towards greater connection, purpose, and peace. We'll be sharing our recorded services and conversations with health and wellness experts. Enjoy.
Hi, Dan here, one of the hosts of the OAC podcast. Today we are joined with our special co-host Azlan Nelson, who is interviewing Jesse Boyko. We apologize, and today's audio is a little wonky because of our Zoom recording, but we hope you stick around as there is a great story from Jesse today. Enjoy.
Hi, and welcome to OAC Vancouver's podcast. This is our first in our series of getting to know each of our church members. Today we have Jesse Boyko.
Hello, hello.
Jesse, we're going to start off. We just want to get to know you a bit. What did you eat for breakfast this morning?
What did I eat for breakfast? Okay, I feel like it's actually not an innocuous question. I feel like it's kind of loaded because you can tell a lot from somebody based on what they eat in the morning. I'd like to say I had like fruit and yogurt, but I had a cup of coffee, and then a couple hours later I remembered I didn't eat, so I had a bagel with the herb and garlic cream cheese. So
nice.
I still count that as breakfast, but it was kind of late.
Is that like a typical breakfast for you?
No, not my ideal breakfast. My ideal breakfast is like an egg McMuffin, like some cheese, onions, tomatoes, and yeah, like not quite healthy, but it's not like unhealthy, kind of that mid-range.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. Are you like a brunch kind of guy?
Honestly, for me, like with food, I forget to eat more than anything. So I eat the best when I'm like doing physical activity because it like reminds my body that I have to eat. So I'm usually, if I'm ever active, it's in the morning. Once it gets to like noon, I don't do anything active. So will work out in the morning and then like actually have a meal. So not really brunch, usually breakfast. If I like on the days I sleep in, I end up not eating very well at all.
Yeah.
See, I told you can tell a lot from food.
Yeah, it kind of affects the rest of your day, I guess.
It does. Yeah.
I already know, but can you tell me again, just for the audience's sake, a bit about what your profession is, but also like your hobbies and what you do for fun and that kind of thing?
Okay. Yeah, I can. So just starting with profession. Oh man, see, it's actually weird to say. So I do like videography, photography, and web design. And the part of the reason why I think it's hard to say is that I'm fairly new into transferring into that as like a full-time job. It's been more of like a side hustle thing. Actually, I was in the tourism industry before COVID, and one of my goals was to have, I loved my job, but it wasn't necessarily where I wanted to be. So my goal was to like, by the end of 2020, be just doing my own freelance stuff. And then COVID hit, and I was kind of forced to just do my own freelance stuff. So it's, God's been good that way. So let's see what I do profession-wise. Probably my first love is video. That's kind of what I started with, and then from there branched into photography, and then some logo creation, web design, making websites, that sort of thing. So yeah, I've been very blessed that I've been able to keep working. So
great. Anyone listening right now needs any logos or videography done, you know who to call.
Yeah, use the coupon code OACVAN10 for 10% off your next purchase.
Yep. That's our plug. We did it. We had to have at least one.
We did, yeah.
Nice. Can you tell us a bit more about like where you grew up? Maybe like the town you grew up in, your family, that kind of thing?
Yeah. If there's anybody from Alberta who listens, I'm from there, from central Alberta. So small town called Lacombe, where they have the only Adventist university in Canada. So now it's called Burman University, but when I went there, it was Canadian University College. Yeah, so I grew up there and really in that Adventist circle for a large part. My mom worked at the school at that time. So very much ingrained in Adventist life from very young. And then I moved out here to experience the big city and pursue the arts and all that jazz. But yeah, very much. I have a theory. I don't know if this is true, but my theory is that like because I have very strong friendships from that time, even still like from high school and stuff, they're still like some of my closest friends. And I do think part of it is because it was so boring there that you like don't have anything to do but actually get to know someone. I find like Vancouver culture is very much we hang out if there's something to do. You know, you want to go for coffee, you want to go to eat or whatever. And there, it was not uncommon to just like call each other up and be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" You're like, "Oh, not much." You're like, "Okay, I'll be right over." And then you do not much together, and you just like are kind of just in the same space. So that's my theory. I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not, but that was my experience. Yeah, I'm grateful for it. At the time, I don't think I loved it as much because there's like nothing to do.
But do you feel that? So they say there's this thing called the Seattle freeze. Have you guys heard about this?
No, what's that?
Yeah, so in the States, there's this thing where like people in Seattle are very nice and cordial, but when you get to like when you try to get to know them better, they're like, whoa, moving a little bit too fast. So
Yeah.
people are like nice but at an arm's length. So do you feel that cultural difference between like Vancouver and Central Alberta kind of just like
yeah, I felt it huge. It's so funny you said it. I have not heard that term, but that is like very accurate. Yeah, the best way that I could describe it when I first moved here, and it was very surprising. Everyone's friendly. Like it's not like New York or Toronto where, you know, there's that reputation of like more standoffish. Everyone's friendly here, but nobody's really friends. Like it's just very like surface. And yeah, they don't actually like there's no getting to a deeper level. And when I first moved here, that was hard. And that was like really shocking. And you'd be talking to somebody and they'd like strike up a conversation you're talking to them. I'm like, oh man, that's so cool. So are you from here? And they're like, oh no, I'm from Alberta. I'm like, oh right. That's why, because we've talked for the last 30 minutes. So, yeah. So I definitely that even now I notice it when I go back to visit. It's and I think partially small town. I'm sure maybe it's different in Calgary or something like that. But you know, you're standing in a grocery store checkout line and you're waiting. So what do? Like you just talk to the people next to you and you hang out. And then like that is not really a Vancouver thing. I noticed.
No, I can definitely attest to that.
Yeah. It was tough. It probably took me a good like 2 years from moving, 2 or 3 years until I like actually felt like I had a friend base. That I mean, not that it took me that long to meet people who became my friends, but just the culture was different before I actually felt like comfortable.
you guys have any guesses why that is?
I have so many theories. I don't know, and none of them are grounded in like science. One theory, I do think like small town probably. I'm comparing it to a place that's probably hyper friendly, just because everyone's used to maybe not knowing each other, but at least being familiar with each other, especially if you're going to the same spot. The other theory is the weather. My theory, and this is a working theory, is because it doesn't get that cold here, no one's ever in danger. Whereas like in Alberta, as an example, if somebody's stopped on the side of the road, a stranger is going to stop and help you. But they're going to do that because if they don't, like you'll die. It's -40 in the winter. Whereas here, you don't really have anything like that. Like the cold weather, like I feel like it brings us together. That's one working theory. I have no idea if it's accurate.
Was the sort of community that you grew up in, I guess it was you did grow up in a very faith-based community because it was Lacombe, so it's like Adventist Central, right? Or am I wrong?
No, that's definitely a fair assessment. I had a little bit of like a unique experience, only in that I was actually homeschooled until grade 10. But then once I hit high school, and then I was working at the campus, So I'd get to the campus at like 6 in the morning and really leave at like 8 at night and stuff. So yeah, a large part of my exposure from high school and university was in like an Adventist setting. Mm-hmm.
How was the transition from homeschool to like public? Was it?
So I was happy to, on the element of like, by about grade 9, I started feeling like I'm missing out on some social experiences. I was fortunate in that like we weren't homeschooled to be sheltered or anything like that. My parents just thought they could do it better. They didn't want to send me to a public school and that sort of thing. So I wasn't being sheltered. So by grade 9, I noticed that I was missing some social activities, or just not as ingrained. But my parents didn't really do it in the best way. They wanted to homeschool me, to not send me to a public school, but at the same time, they were both working full time. So I actually did not do school at all for all of grade 9 and most of grade 8. So by the time I got to grade 10, it was a really big like scholastic learning curve. So socially, I loved it because I'm familiar with these people from church and really was like craving the social aspect. So I love that. But then, yeah, scholastically, like I remember sitting in grade 10 math and him or the teacher being like, oh yeah, so this is trigonometry. Most of you have been doing it since grade 9, some as much as grade 8. And I've like never seen it at all. I had no idea what any of these things were. Sine, cosine, no clue. So it took me probably the first semester to get caught up. But then the other thing that I learned, that I realized I didn't learn, I should say, is during that junior high when you're kind of learning to do homework and study, I didn't get that. So I'm still pretty bad at studying for a test, just because I never really learned those habits or anything like that. So yeah, it was tumultuous. But
Do you think that being homeschooled it creates, I hate to put judgment, like creates people of better character because of less type of influence out there in the world, or is it just circumstances of your environment?
So I think it definitely can. I think the problem, which is part of why there's like the stigma with homeschool, is because I find there's a skew towards the type of people who choose it. Most of the time, the people who are choosing it are trying to keep their kids out of the world and trying to shelter them. And I think that's just problematic in so many ways. And yes, it might shelter them, but then it doesn't really get them to come up with their own choices. Lots of kids end up rebelling that way, and it doesn't really socialize them. I remember we used to have band every Wednesday where we'd meet together, and I felt so out of place with all these weird homeschool kids that way. But so like I think most of the time with homeschool, the intention is to just shelter them, but I don't know how beneficial that is. I think if it's done right, the learning experience can be just better because you can learn more in school. There's so much busy work for kids, so you get through that and they are able to learn more and different things. I think done right, it can be better than school, and done wrong, it can be worse than school. If that makes sense.
Well, as of this past March, homeschooling is no longer a stigma.
So yeah, I guess that's the new thing, which is part of. So again, it's a little derailed or a little off topic, but I mean, everyone's complaining and they're like, well, how are we going to get these kids to like do their schoolwork? Like, you guys not understand how much of stuff in school is just busy work, and like I know that you can miss 2 full years of school and still be okay. So when people are like, oh, my kid, well, he's not going to learn properly for 2 months, I'm like, he's fine, he'll be fine, just don't worry about it. He'll have a little bit of a learning curve to get like back to where he's supposed to be, Like, just calm down. I think honestly, if they just took all kids out of school for the 4 months and then brought them back and everyone's like semester behind, I'm like, calm down, it's fine. You just squeeze 2 years together, we'll be okay. So that's my side with it. Yeah, because now everybody's doing that, and then you have parents who like aren't able to be there and not, and yet they're trying to. Like, my kid has to get this education, and you realize, like, please, like, language arts grade 4. If you miss a few weeks, like, you'll be okay. It's gonna be all right.
What other challenges do you think that the church faces right now with COVID going on?
I mean, yeah, if we're talking about like church, are we talking churches in general or our church? I think our church is in a kind of a more advantageous position than other churches, just because we already had a live stream infrastructure and things like that. So our transition that way, wow, was still a ton of work for Pastor Rhoda, Robert, and Otto, so many other people. It was less so than other churches where they had to like learn things for the first time. For me, I think it's that connectivity, and I don't know how it has been for you guys, but even like hanging out with friends on Zoom is not the same and doesn't feel the same as seeing people in real life and being in that room. And so I think that's probably, like, I would say probably the biggest challenge. And I say that really biased because that's probably the biggest thing from church is the actual physical camaraderie of being together and worshiping together and all like hanging out together.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Right, like even songs, which is like one of my favorite parts. I notice it the most. Like, it is not the same singing in your living room. So yeah, I think that like combating that, and then I mean I don't know. I haven't looked at recent news for BC, but and on there were announcements that like people might not get the vaccine until next summer in Canada, things like that. So this is the new norm. So to kind of sustain and keep people feeling connected during this time, especially with bigger restrictions now, I think that's probably the biggest challenge.
Do you have any particular faith-defining moments in your life?
Ooh, faith-defining moments. Yeah, so I was thinking about that. Yeah, I think I do. So it's interesting. My faith there was not a moment where I was converted, I guess would be like the classic Adventist way of putting it. I grew up in the church, like I said, so I like went through my not believing phase. I was far more like, yeah, okay, I gotta believe something, so this is good, it's fine, it's cool. For me, I was very much just, yeah, I'm okay with. Do you say that there's a God? Sweet, I believe that there's God. That's cool, and like this is the religion to be in. Sweet, okay, like compared against the Bible, yeah, that makes sense to me. And that was kind of the most. And so it was not ever that I didn't believe in God. I mean, I went through that phase, but it wasn't my stance. It was just there wasn't really a feeling of like a personal God for me. And I was lucky enough to have or be in situations where God was showing me working in people's lives, or at least that I could see. So while it still wasn't necessarily real for me, I used to work at a treatment center. People who are desperate to get off drugs and alcohol, seeing them rely very heavily on God and seeing the things that He worked with them through and the changes in their lives. There's just so many coincidences that at some point you have to, or I came to the conclusion that like, no, it looks like God is actually doing something in their life. So that was kind of the first thought. And then I moved out here, started kind of going through my own existential crisis, getting older, getting a little disillusioned with where I thought I was going to be. But more than anything, like getting to be a worse person, which I didn't think I didn't know was happening. And then I was saying something to my girlfriend at the time. I was talking to her and I was complaining about something. And she like kind of rolled her eyes and I'm like, wait, do you think I'm unhappy? And she looked at me like I was an idiot. and was like, of course you're unhappy. What are you talking about? And I honestly didn't know. I just did not see that. And I've always been somebody who's happy and fun and looks on the bright side and gives people the benefit of the doubt. And somewhere along the line, I started to become a version of myself that I didn't like. And that really scared me, actually. So kind of coming back and full circle, I'm like, okay, so I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to just be better. Willing it made me miserable, and I wasn't actually happy. So I kind of prayed and was like, well, God has helped other people, and I've seen him help other people. He's never helped me, which was, I mean, obviously not true, but that was my thought. Like, well, he hasn't helped me, but maybe he would. So I guess that would be one. See, that's not even a faith defining moment because I had no clue if it would work out. But I started having worship in the morning. I had like a book commentary on Philippians, started going through that. And yeah, I don't know when it changed, but somewhere along the line, I went from like looking ahead to see how many pages I have left until I can be done to looking ahead, seeing like how many more sections I can do in the time that I have, and being like, oh, you know, yeah, I can read like 2 more. I don't have to go yet. And so I was like, started to get excited, and I started to see tangible changes in my own like viewpoints on life, my own outlook, and my own just like general happiness. But I kept like thinking that it was a fleeting thing, like it would be just this temporary flash in the pan. You know, like when you go, I don't know if either of you have ever gone to summer camp, but like after camp, you know, like so on fire for God for 2 weeks, and then I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm back to normal life. So I was kind of thinking that's what was going to happen. Yeah, and it wasn't until I was in Oak Ridge, actually, we were singing in song service, and I like just like leaned down to my girlfriend at the time and was like I think I love God. And I was kind of afraid to say it just because I didn't want it to be something that was just like, oh, I had these feelings for a bit and then it was just like gone, now I don't care again. But yeah, that was the first time that I was like, oh, I think I actually like, yeah, I think I love him. And I can honestly say, which is crazy, and just to think about in that, like I would have been 29 or 28 at the time, so it's probably 2 years ago, a year and a half. I've been in the church my entire life and like never actually loved God or loved Jesus or however we want to say it. So in terms of faith defining that like epiphany, it that certainly didn't come. That wasn't a moment in which I went from not loving him to loving him, but that moment of realization of like, oh, I'm actually in a place with God that I've never been in my life.
It's an interesting thing because I think all of us who've been in the church, there's kind of these, I don't know, expectations at times that, oh, everybody's found it, everybody is good. The reality are like people, I think, have their internal struggles, and it's hard to vocalize that, especially when you're in a community that expects that everything is perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and I think everybody deals with it different. For mine, it was my like way of dealing with it was to just really not think of it. So it's like, okay. Like my parents wanted me to go to church. Well, I lived with them, so I should go to church. And like in theory, I mean, I get to see my friends. Like I don't mind church. Church is fun. But there wasn't really like a personal connection. And yeah, and that's what I mean. Like it's crazy to think about. I've been surrounded by it my whole life, and it's only now that it's like become real, really.
Do you think that experience has helped you with these other crises? Meaning, like, we're in one right now. And I think these times have kind of challenged people in a way, depending like on their prior crises. Like those who've never went through a lot of struggle, perhaps maybe struggling a lot more today, because this is obviously a big deal. How do you feel that your past has informed your present?
That's a good question. I think what that did was force me to rely on God more. I still suck at it, but more so. And so when this crisis happened, there was, at least for me, less of that fear or even that uncertainty, just because I was in a position where I was already seeing how much he was doing in my life. So this was another like, oh well, let's I have no idea what's going to happen. And I mean, he's done that. Like in the beginning, I talked about like doing like freelance, and he's literally just kept work coming my way in times where I should have less of it, and lots of people are suffering with less of it. Yeah, I'm very, very blessed. So I don't know if I've reflected enough to see in which ways my past experience have influenced that, but I am happy that I at least have been training myself more to see more of God's actions and can see him working a lot in the now.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things is always like, I wonder, like, is it coincidence or is it God? Do all these things line up because it's just random, or is it really him?
Mm-hmm. It's so true. And like, usually I'm better at answering that after the fact, where I'm like, oh, right, that was God. He was trying to tell me something, and I just kept not listening to him. But yeah, in the moment, yeah, I don't really know. It just, from my experience, all the coincidences seem to be connected. So it seems to feel less coincidental, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? More in a series of intentional coincidences, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, that is constantly something I'm like, I have no idea. Even asking for like guidance in the next step in my life or career options or anything like that. Like, I have a very hard time distinguishing like, oh yeah, this is where the Lord wants me, or like, this is just what I want the Lord to want me to do. So I feel like it's God because it's really just me. Like, and I don't know. I'm not good at that yet. So.
Was there a role model in your life spiritually when you were young, and how much did they help you with where your faith is now?
I mean, there were people of faith in my life. My dad is one. So my cousin is one. Like, so there are people that at that time I was less interested in those things. So there were in my life, there were people that were role models spiritually. My dad, one. My cousin is another. He's probably 13 years older than me. My friend's dad would be another. Actually, his mom goes to Oak Ridge. Raja, advantage of working with Pastor Kumar, who was the pastor before, a couple pastors before, is what God used to keep me in the church. Because Kumar said, like, if you're working for us, you need to be at church. Like, you need to show up on Saturdays. You can't be missing church. So I was coming mostly for that. And looking back, like, that actually kept me in the church those years. And yeah, so I think he would be another spiritual role model.
Thanks for sharing and being like so vulnerable with us.
Well, this was great. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to me.
Well, thank you for your time, Jesse, and we really appreciate everything that you do, and just like you not just what you do, but like as a member of OAC. I know when I was there, it really, like, I would look forward to like hanging out with you because you're just an all-around cool guy, and you have a way of making people feel chill and relaxed when they're just having a conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to OAC Vancouver's podcast. Learn more at oacvancouver.ca. If you're in Vancouver, join us for worship Saturdays at 11 a.m. at 5350 Bailey Street. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate, review, and subscribe. God bless you and have a wonderful day.